Now, going on with the second half will be basically to just apply once again this way of learning the piece that I introduced so far. So I want now to spend a few minutes on a apparently tiny detail, but I think is very important in our technical work at the piano. And this is about our fourth finger here and here. That is quite a peculiar fellow in our team of players. In fact, I think that you noticed that often when we reach a note with the fourth finger, we easily slide in some kind of pitfall and we lose sound or regularity on so on. And let's try to understand why is that and what remedies would be available. Well, when we play with the number 2 or with number 3, either with the finger itself, with the prensil action, we see that if we learn to the right position, the classical position at the piano of the end, that doesn't mean it's a position which we have to stick on, but it's a kind of reference point to start with, and sometimes we can lower it, higher up it, but the classical position is of the end that is kind of holding an imaginary ball underneath your fingers, right? Imagine that you have a baseball ball under the hand, so your curvature is kind of embracing that ball. And when I use number 2, number 3, my configuration is this, right? But look at what happens, I guess, for the large majority of us, if not for all of us, due to the anatomy that we have in our hand. When I use my fourth finger and activate his prensil action, or even I drop the arm if you prefer, you will notice that the knuckle pops up, right? Something that doesn't happen in the same way with the 2 and 3. So what it means that our hand structure there has a soft spot, right? And this soft spot, if you are not aware and if we don't counteract to compensate that, is creating that pitfall. Do you realize that, the principle is that, like, imagine you have a heavy box on the floor, right? And so a good way to push the box is to find the wall. If you have it, you press yourself against the wall and then you push the box, right? The wall is taking the reaction of the box on your hands, according to Isaac Newton's nice principle that to any action there is a exact action contrary in the opposite direction that is still holding true for us. And the same thing happens at the piano. So when I press a key, there is this more or less tiny force delivered to the key that is also acting in the opposite direction on my finger, right? And the knuckle of the hand are actually now acting as the wall, so taking that force here on the hand structure. And you notice that the knuckles of the 2 and 3 are holding the position, so are a good wall. Instead, the knuckle of the 4th is a sort of soft wall. So imagine you want to push that box using the wall as a reaction item, but the wall cedes, C-E-D-E, it is a soft wall. Your energy is loosened, and rather than pushing the box, you push yourself backward. And this is the same thing. You think you are delivering energy to the key, but in a tiny fraction of a second, where you thought to have energy delivered, instead you dissipate part of that force, of that energy, in the seeding of the knuckle of the 4th finger. And for example, let's see if I pick up some spot where this is kind of evident. Let me see, measure 2. This, with my fingering, this D is taken by the fourth, and if I don't pay attention, I have this losing sound effect. It is something almost instantaneous, if it is the right word in English, because playing the piano is a matter of subtle actions and accurate movements. I think I can deliver energy as I did with my 1, with my 3, and even with the fifth. The fifth is kind of helped by the position it is if we play with the rotation of the wrist, of the hand, by the arm. But the poor fourth finger is there hidden with this soft knuckle there. And so we have, I would say, two basic tools. The one is to be aware and the kind of overdo the prensil action of the fourth, because it's good the fourth finger in doing that. If I take this little notebook and I hold with the fourth finger, or if you pinch yourself or your friend with the fourth finger, you can apply considerable action as long as you have reached the point when the knuckle has reached his, how to say, hard position, right? The sealing is seized. So we have to be aware of applying a tiny overaction in the fourth so that we reach more quickly the point of the stop of the knuckle, and that ideally should occur when we are reaching the point in the key action where the sound is produced. Of course, it's something to explore, to work on, rather than to explain. I hope you got the point. But another tool that we have is, of course, the rest of the lever mechanism. Is sometimes problematic to be, how to say, quick and aware in using the prensil. We have to use a little extra weight with the movements of the arm on the fourth, monitoring that we have the energy that we want and trying to make that in a easy way and fluid and relaxed way. And here we'll find several points. We already found several points where the 4 is in action. And even in the second half that will start in a minute, I guess in moment like I have my soft knuckle going up. If I'm not paying attention, easily I will do. So I have to be either more prensil or kind of more active with my arm to counteract this quick tiny seeding of the knuckle. So explore that, find your own way to handle that. Let's move on. Once again, of course, it's the same pattern that we had at the beginning. So the left hand is playing in the tenor, contralto, something that will be interconnected with the line in the right hand, right? And you feel the expressivity now we have in this chromatism. You might explore a way of, how to say, highlighting that, perhaps with a crescendo or whatever. So right hand. Here, if you check on the manuscript, you will find my Urtext edition is instead proposing. I'm not sure what Bach really wanted to do. I don't believe that he was unfailable, if it is the right word in English. Of course, it was one of the greatest genius of the mankind, but time to time, if you notice the manuscripts, you come across steps that appear kind of, oh, he was distracted, he was in a hurry, he wrote, thousands of pieces, so how could he do that? I prefer, with my taste, to stick with the edition I have rather than what I found in the manuscript. And without saying, notice the great intensity in this B natural, so don't underplay that. Perhaps some attention would be needed not to overplay the A flat if you can. And perhaps the first time of the second half we might play with una corda with perhaps a more staccato touch. And why not the second time a more fluid and melting way of playing. So there is a surprise here, right? And now, my suggestion, don't make your life impossible in holding this C exactly until the very last moment, because I don't think this will help music. Instead, be, first of all, physically natural, find a comfort zone in this apparently intricate step. Holding the C as possible comfortably without being too strict in it. Here I feel it's not too difficult to do this finger replacement. Once again. I believe it would be a good idea to start right away, the very first day, with these two bars you're studying, because these two bars are a little bit intricate and will require probably a little more time. And then you search for other segments that are kind of complicated, and I would start with that. You could end it with an attempt of side reading of the entire piece, and doing this will start building up familiarity with the easy lines, and by the time you reach the end of your work and you have spent considerable time on the difficult points, those easy parts will be rather next to a good mastery of them in your work. Let's go on. Would be also in this point to start initially removing the final A flat, because the A flat is the important note, but you don't want to miss the other notes. So initially you kind of shift your attention and weight on the other notes, and then you will take care about adding the final important landing point. Yes, I think I prefer to use the 4 on the A flat, as you see, with all the attention and caution considering which finger we are using, as I tried to explain before. Now here I suggest to pay attention and being, I like to say, assertive when you land on the G of the next bar, because you see it's the only note that happens in the bass, so it has to carry, how to say, sufficient energy not to leave a void there. Remember, here the piano is becoming slightly heavier in its action, so we have to be sufficiently, let me say, heavy, energetic, whatever you want to say, however, present in our touch and energy to let the string vibrate and produce the nice sounds we want. By the way, I believe that this line is here really leading the situation, so don't make, how to say, the mistake of leaving it not sufficiently hearable. last consideration regarding the structure of the piece. So we said at the beginning is a diptych, right? But now let's have a closer look at the structure of each half of the diptych. So let's start from the beginning and let's play the first two lines more or less. So as we notice here, there is one line, the right hand, the contralto, soprano, whatever it is, that is talking, is singing, definitely, he's leading the situations, right? So it could be a presentation, a proposal. The bass is doing nearly nothing, not exactly nothing, as I said, it's very important, but he's kind of listening, observing, assisting, right? Here it stops, really, it kind of listen, what is this fellow saying? And there is this tenor that is kind of perhaps nodding, is the word I think, like following the logic of the right hand, kind of say, oh yes, oh you're right. Contributes now with some remark and underlining. He's following the logic. And now something different happens because you see that he starts developing a more dynamic situation. So all the voices are taking a role. So there is really now a discussion. Is finished the moment of the presentation. It sounds even perhaps a confutation, so maybe the bass that is saying, no, but I don't think that what you said in the first line is really correct, I disagree, and there is the contralto in between the upper part and the bass that is kind of, it doesn't know in a way which side to take. So to me, it sounds quite apparent that we have these halves in the half with a proposition, a proposal, a presentation, and a discussion, a confutation, or perhaps an arguing in the family. And more or less the same thing happened in the second halves, but the presentation is kind of shorter. It's like the two other guys are saying, oh, now don't keep talking as you did before because we understood your game and there is something else to say, right? Like, now you stop. And I believe that now, according to my sensitivity, the bass is kind of holding the situation, the control. Is like the parent, perhaps with the two kids, or one of the two parents say, now we do what I say, right? Especially here, it's very assertive. And luckily back to peace in the family. I hope that some of my considerations will be helpful and useful for your work on this piece. Thanks for watching me until this point. I hope to see you again in my next video.